One of the final murders that you committed, of course, was apparently little Kimberly Leach, 12 years of age. I think the public outcry is greater there because an innocent child was taken from a playground. What did you feel after that? Were there the normal emotions 3 days later? Where were you, Ted?
I can't really talk about that right now. That's
too painful.
I would like to be able to convey to you what that experience is like, but I can't. I won't be able to talk about that.
Okay.
How's everybody doing today? So here I am, finally in Lake City, Florida, and I've been asked throughout the course of my YouTube career, because I cover true crime, serial killers, to do a story or stories on Ted Bundy. Now, I've had something planned on Ted Bundy for a very, very long time. What I wanted to do initially was that's loud across the street. What I wanted to do initially was do a complete Ted Bundy video from Washington, Utah, Colorado, over here to Florida, Michigan. Show a lot of spots. That's a huge undertaking, especially for a small channel like mine. And I don't know when or if I'd ever be able to get to do that put it all together. It's something I have to film over the course of like a year or two. So I thought, while I'm here in Florida, I'm going to do it a different way. At various points, you're going to see videos pop up about Ted Bundy over a year, 2 years, whenever I get to the locations. This is one of the most important ones in the story of the terrible person that Ted Bundy was. If you don't know who Ted Bundy was, I mean, basically they used to refer to him when he was alive as sex murderer Ted Bundy. He killed confirmed 20 women, but over 30, more than likely. His youngest victim was 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. And it was right here in Lake City, Florida. She was his last victim, his youngest victim. And he kidnapped her right from here, this school behind me. She used to be a school. It was difficult. It's hot in Florida all the time, I can tell you that. To pinpoint some of these locations, I mean, her grave is widely known where it is. We're going to be going there at the end of the video to pay respect. And that's another thing about Ted Bundy is you've got to, I mean, he's almost a superstar in terms of serial killers, and that bothers me so much because he's just a disgusting human being who deserves no fame. Having said that, the hypocrisy and irony on my part is I probably put his name in the title. But I always like to focus on the victims, and that's what I'm doing when I'll do my videos about Ted Bundy and other serial killers that I cover. So he made his way from, I'm not going to get into the whole backstory. Washington, Utah, Colorado, escaped jail twice, killing brutally, always had a type, brunette, parted in the middle, young women. She was 12 years old. And she was here, attending school. Now I believe, if I walk around here, there's a couple of buildings on the property. This is the actual school here. And then over there, past those trees, I'm just gonna be a little discreet here. It's okay. A sheriff drove by and gave me a thumbs up. I'm not sure why. It was nice. There's that building there and that building right there, which is the main school. Now it's February 8th, 1978. He was in Jacksonville, Florida in the morning, which is about, I guess I'm thinking about an hour from here. I'm going there next. No, I'm going further west for this story, then doubling back. He was in Jacksonville, Florida. He tried to kidnap a young girl. Luckily, her brother was there to stop him. She turned out to be the daughter of a police detective, ironically enough. And then he drove here. He was in Tallahassee earlier in the month, and he had driven quite a fair distance. That's quite a fair distance away, where, of course, he killed the sorority girls. I'll be going to those locations at some point. This is just the story of his last victim. And so he tried to kidnap that girl. That didn't work out for him. And then he hopped in a stolen car and drove all the way to Lake City. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, Kimberly was summoned back to her homeroom to retrieve a purse she had left behind. So I'm not sure if she was in a different classroom and summoned to her homeroom, but that doesn't make sense that she leaves school. So it makes sense that she was in the other building and walked through the parking lot. And I'll show you where that is. And it is such, I just drove through there. It's about a 10-second walk. So Ted Bundy was obviously waiting to strike the first girl he saw. He would have driven right along this street. It's changed a lot, I'm sure. But some of these places will be from 1978. This building, of course, is. Now what I'm saying is the amount of time that it took would have been an instant, and I'm assuming he was parked in the back parking lot. According to eyewitness testimony and off-duty firemen, he was parked in the middle of the street behind the school. A witness saw her crying while she was being put into the van, I believe it was, but thought it was a father with a daughter. So if we walk back here, you're going to see that auditorium right there. And look how close it is to the school. If she came out of those doors, there's doors on the other side there, and there's doors right there. That is within an instant. Now, did he coerce her like he did? Did he play the old, I'm crutches? It was his big thing. You know, I need help. Things like that to lure young women. But again, this wasn't a young woman. This was a girl. This wasn't even a teenager. Do you know, like, the depravity and the cruelty is one thing, but when people talk about Ted Bundy and they talk about his charisma and his intelligence, I don't think so at all. I see it completely differently. I think you're in the 1970s. There's no surveillance cameras everywhere. Police presence isn't everywhere like it is. I've seen 4 police cars go by me while I'm filming this right now. He struck when opportunity arose, and he tricked or physically overwhelmed a 12-year-old girl into a van in the 1970s. People knew about stranger danger then, sure, but not to the extent they do today. And I'm talking people as in adults and kids. So he's not a mastermind. He represented himself at his own trial. Right away, you know that's a stupid person. I am a little angry as I make this, but it's just this poor girl walking from there to there, roughly. Physically overwhelmed her or coerced her into his car. Does that make you a brilliant mastermind? No. It just makes you a real garbage person and somebody who deserved the worst. I think he deserved worse than what he got, though. But of course, I'm not. Kind of think, when I think about Ted Bundy, I think about Paul Bernardo, who I've done videos on back in Canada. You know, they talked about his good looks and his charm and all that. But ultimately, he just overpowered innocent young women. Wasn't smart. Wasn't brilliant. Criminal mastermind. Yes, Ted Bundy broke out of jail twice. But I mean, this is the 1970s. Things were done differently then. He got away with it for a while, but he got caught. Again, I'm not a journalist. I've always said that. I'm just a guy who makes YouTube videos about things that interest me, that I think will interest you. So these are my opinions. And if you, if you think that Ted Bundy is a brilliant mastermind, I don't know what to tell you. All right, you do you. But there are people who are fascinated by him. I am fascinated by him. I can pinpoint the exact moment when I heard about Ted Bundy. I was about 7 years old. I was in a dentist office, and my mother was across from me, and I picked up a Reader's Digest. And in it, there was a story about Ted Bundy, and it was long. For a Reader's Digest article, remember that little magazine, tiny thing? It was long, and I was reading it, but then I got called into the dental office, and I wanted to know the rest of the story. So when we left the dentist office, I took it, and I was petrified that I was going to get caught for stealing this Reader's Digest from my dentist office. Shout out Dr. Shapiro, rest in peace. I really thought I was going to get in a lot of trouble, but I read that article over and over again. At about 7 or 8 years old, roughly. I remember that. It didn't scare me. I was just interested in things like that. I thought I was going to say in memory of Kimberly Leach. So it is fascinating, these stories. It is very interesting. And I get it. I know why people are fascinated by serial killers and what they do. But like I said, it's always about the victim for me. I want to do something proper for them, right? Or something right. I can't just focus on the killer. He kidnapped her from here, sorry, getting off topic. And then took her to Sewanee State Park, which is about 45 minutes from here. And that's where he left her body. And I'm going to take you there now, show you that area, and then visit her final resting spot. am at Suwannee River State Park. Showed you the entranceway and a bit of the drive in. But this is a road that's just off when you come into the state park. And my good friend Nick, who has helped me out a couple of times with research on videos, and he's an expert, I'm talking an expert on Ted Bundy and his crimes. He's not a fan, he's just of Ted Bundy. I want to make that clear. He's an expert. Knows everything about the case. And we were talking, I said, well, I'm going to go out to where Kimberly's body was found. Not exactly sure exactly where. And within 2 seconds, he returned my text and gave me this address because she was left at there's a car coming, which is odd along this side of the road. Not much traffic out here, that's for sure. She was left behind a pig shed buried underneath at the first house on your right when you come into the park. And as you can see behind me, there's a house, there is a shed back there, but I'll show you what the pig shed looked like. And I mean, the indignity of what he did to this young girl. And this is far from Lake City. It's not too far, but it's far. And it's a very remote location. It's a state park in the middle of Florida. What I saw looked beautiful. I automatically think, well, what are you going to do with the water? Like, parks, you want to go in the water. I think automatically alligators. But it's a weekday. There's not many people out here at all, and especially on this stretch of road. So when you come in to the state park, your first right there where I showed you those train tracks, and then the first house on your right, Nick was going off police documents, anything he could find, books that he had, and thanks, Nick. I believe this is the location because what I've read is Ted Bundy did not drive in the state park. It's right outside of the state park. This makes sense. But the thought of him driving from Lake City all the way here outside of Live Oak, Florida, to Suwannee State Park is so remote. How would he know there's a shed here, like behind this house, if this is the same house that was staying? It looks kind of new. And so I just think about this thing. How did he find such a remote, and it's to drive with either a frightened young girl or at that point possibly a dead young girl in your car that distance, and to find a remote spot like this. I just wondered, did he choose it, and was it by happenstance that he found this place, or did he think, okay, the state park? Because he had driven across from Tallahassee at some point when he made his way to Jacksonville. So I don't know, but here it is right here. So there it is right there, the house, and there is a shed on the background, but that's not the same one. Looks like somebody's living here. I don't know what that nonsense is in the background right there. You can hear that going by. That's a major road out there, but even that major road is really, really quiet and nothing going on. And then that drive into the state park is so desolate and quiet. So I guess maybe Ted Bundy was thinking to leave her remains in a state park, but it would have been, I would assume even at that time, there would have been a gate. Didn't want to go past it, and left her body here on this property. And now we're going to go to the final location for this part of the video and pay respects to Kimberly.
I used to ride the ponies. I used to you stories that don't amuse me now. We went a couple of rounds. You're only up when I'm down. I used to think about you. You don't amuse me now. But isn't it cool to waste time and play it fine? You gotta listen here, fool. I'll make my own.
So I made it to Memorial Cemetery here in Lake City. It is about a 1-minute drive from the junior high. Like, I think it was 900 meters. It's way less than a mile. That's how close Kimberly Leach is to where she was kidnapped, where she's buried. 900 meters. It's a beautiful cemetery. It's Memorial Cemetery, it's called. I think it might be the only cemetery in Lake City. I don't know. But I'll show you around a little bit here. As you can see, stretches on there. There's one like above ground crypt there, mausoleum, small, and dirt road here, paved road over there. But right when you come in the front entrance, right where I showed you, there might be another entrance, but that's the main entrance. You're gonna look to your right, you can see this scrub oak. Now I don't know if that's a scrub oak, but I'm going by my old friend Brian, who's in my River Phoenix video, was telling me about the names of these trees. That may not be a scrub oak, but it's got scrub oak qualities to it, with the stuff hanging down. But Kimberly, I could see her grave as soon as I look to the right. Find the grave has it pinpointed very well, and I'm just gonna walk over. We've got a Frida Leach, Thomas Leach, and there's Kimberly. Take a look right there. October 20th, 1965, February 9th, 1978. Our Sunshine reads at the bottom. So her father has passed on. Mother, I believe, might still be alive. Mother would be in her 80s now. Kimberly, I said she was 12. So Kimberly would be turning 57 this year. 57. 45 years. The median age for my channel watchers are about 35 to 45. And just think about that. Your whole life. She didn't get to live those 45 years. Even when I'm saying it out loud, I feel like I'm being a little maudlin, or not maudlin, I feel like I'm being over dramatic, but I'm not. I'm just, it's when you see something like this in person, it changes just reading about it, hearing about it, and I think maybe for you as well, seeing it here in front of you now, you get the gravity and the heft of the situation, and she would have been, she missed her prom. She missed university, college. She missed her career, having kids. 57 years old, she'd be a grandparent by now. That's... Now, of course, Famously, Ted Bundy was executed January 24th, 1989. So we're looking at 11 years after. And it's because of Kimberly that he was executed. Now, I've always said for myself on my channel, I've always said for the death penalty, well, I think these killers deserve death. You know, like, they deserve it. But isn't it better thinking of them in a small cell where it gets smaller and smaller? I've said that a million times. Smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, each year. Take away half an inch, 2 inches of the cell, till they're in nothing more than the size of maybe a VW Beetle with nothing else but a sink and a hole in the ground. 3 meals a day, no TV, no books. Isn't that worse? Especially for somebody as arrogant and as boastful and as cruel. See, someone like that, like a narcissist like Ted Bundy, like Paul Bernardo, I think some of these things are worse than death. However, it is interesting to think of these guys that do commit these atrocities, to think about seeing, I feel like maybe I'm being a little vengeful, but I'm thinking on terms of Kimberly's family and friends. Like, wouldn't you want the killer to fear death and to be begging, pleading? I mean, most of them do. They try to get out of it. They try to get away from death penalty because they're afraid of death. They're predators. Ted Bundy, he's like I said, no criminal mastermind. He preyed on young, defenseless women. Put Ted Bundy up against someone his own size, he's not someone, he wouldn't be feared. You know what I mean? You know, sneaking up on innocent people with a weapon while they're in their bed, they're at their most vulnerable. You're not a superhero, you're not a strong man. You're a pussy. You're a wimp. So, Ted Bundy was executed, and if that brought the family peace, then I'm all for it then. Because if it was my daughter, my cousin, my sister, my mother, something like, you know, I would want to take the ultimate revenge, and I think a lot of you would too. I'm sure. But then when I think about it from an outsider's point of view, I think, well, wouldn't this be worse? Wouldn't this be a worse thing? I don't know. It's sometimes what I think about. Often what I think about. So this was the first of my Ted Bundy videos, and there's going to be more. I don't know when they're going to come, but I'm going to do more. And I'm probably just going to go to locations and show what happened, and then rant again like I did throughout this video about Ted Bundy. Because even though I've known about him since I was, like I said, 7, again, the irony is not lost. I'm about to say glorify him or something, but then again, I'm making a video about him. But this video is about Kimberly Leach. I hope that's what we get out of that. 12 years old. And yeah, so you see some more videos about Ted Bundy and what he did, but I'm always going to try to focus on the victims. Thank you for watching. I love you all. And rotten hell, Ted Bundy, rest in peace, Kimberly Leach, and all of Ted Bundy's victims. Okay, see you soon. Peace out.